Hi, my name is David Welsh, and I'm a professor at Arizona State University. Thanks for being a part of this research study. Today, you will be receiving some training on cognitive reappraisal. Sometimes we see or experience negative events at work or in other areas of life. Often, such experiences impact our own attitudes and behaviors in harmful ways. However, one way to break this cycle is through cognitive reappraisal. Cognitive reappraisal involves changing how you think about something that you see or experience so that it does not have the same negative impact on you. This training is focused in particular on the reappraisal of unethical behavior that you see others engage in. It's common to see questionable conduct occurring for a variety of reasons. Witnessing others do unethical things can be upsetting and frustrating. It can cause confusion over what is acceptable behavior to engage in. Sometimes misbehavior goes unpunished or even seems to be rewarded. In some cases, observing unethical behavior can cause one's own standards to change. For example, it might feel more tempting to cheat yourself. Thus, many who see unethical things react in undesirable ways. In another video that you will see after this training, you will witness examples of questionable conduct and unethical behavior. However, we want you to actively change the way you respond by reappraising how you see these instances. Reappraisal involves 3 simple steps. First, one must know how to think when experiencing these situations. When you observe somebody doing something questionable, rather than immediately reacting emotionally, try instead to objectively interpret what they are doing. This is not to say that you should rationalize or justify what is happening. Rather, you should try to be objective so that you don't make unwarranted, emotion-based judgments about what the behavior means. Observing another person at work steal office supplies may initially make another employee upset, which can, ironically, lead the person who witnessed this behavior to behave badly as well. By taking the time to reappraise, rather than reacting immediately, you will be in a better position to respond constructively. Next, try to put the behavior in context. Ask yourself questions like, is this the behavior typical of this sort of environment? Would others approve of this behavior if they observed it? Is this something the person committing it would likely do again, or is it because of an exceptional circumstance? Or, is this something I often feel tempted to do? Again, this isn't about justifying unethical behavior. Rather, the goal of this activity is to put you in a better position to not respond unethically yourself. By better understanding why someone may have acted unethically, it helps you recognize the situational factors or emotions that could influence you to act in a similar way if you weren't careful. Finally, reinterpret the situation you just witnessed in a more constructive way. This should be fairly straightforward at this point, because you've carefully analyzed what's happened and why it happened, and now it's time to recognize this behavior as unethical behavior, something that you want to avoid without personally reacting based on negative emotional feelings. Also, it's useful at this stage to articulate the consequences of the behavior. For example, the situation of a coworker stealing office supplies could be reinterpreted as a coworker acting unethically, breaking company rules, using software for their private use, something that perhaps they've done because they've observed others doing it, and something that might not seem like a big deal to them. However, if they're caught, they could be fired. And by thinking rather than just reacting, you realize this is something that you definitely want to avoid doing yourself. Let's consider an example. Consider an instance in which you are taking an exam and you witness another student looking at a hidden sheet of notes below their desk. The first step in the cognitive reappraisal process is to interpret the situation. Given what you are witnessing, it is likely that this student is cheating on the exam, and this could be a frustrating thing to see. But remember, you want to try to think this through rather than just reacting emotionally. The second step is putting this behavior in context. This isn't about coming up with excuses to let the student off the hook. Instead, by understanding what is going on, you might recognize that cheating can be tempting and is something you need to avoid. The third step involves reinterpreting the situation. By thinking through what you witnessed rather than reacting emotionally, you can recognize this as unethical behavior that you want to avoid. You understand the serious consequences associated with cheating and realize that such behavior is not justified, even if others are doing it. In summary, cognitive reappraisal training is about changing how you respond when you experience negative events. We accomplish cognitive reappraisal by objectively interpreting what we witness, putting that behavior in context, and then reinterpreting the situation. In the video that follows, you will witness examples of questionable conduct and unethical behavior. However, we want you to actively change the way you respond by reappraising how you view these instances so that you can ultimately respond more constructively. Thanks for your participation.